When you hear the idea of mind games associated with Counter-Strike, perhaps the first thing that you think of is teams throwing in curveballs during the veto or players having a mental block when facing a particular team. But today, we're going to look into a different type of mind game. A mind game that takes place between the in-game leaders whilst the match is live. Let's start this off by answering a question. Why can long be so difficult to hold for the CT side? The main reason for this is flashbangs. Since long is almost completely open with high skyboxes, the Ts can throw flashes over the walls and easily catch any CTs that are not playing anti-flash. This combined with how the timings work for long mean it can be very difficult for the CT to get a player into pit should the terrorists go for fast, long control, which is why when you see some teams on the CT side for a smoke that lands out long in the open, is because it helps a player more safely cross into pit, alongside giving the CTs something to play around if the Ts come for that fast map control. To explore how long control in certain scenarios can spawn a cerebral chess match between the in-game leaders, we're going to look at a game played during the FACEIT Major quarterfinals. Getting into this, we're on the first gun round of this match with Na'Vi on the CT side and Big on the terrorist side. Watching an overview, we can see that Na'Vi is going to play 4 players towards the A bomb site early, and this decision is going to be the main focus of the video. So for those out of the know, the standard way to play counter-terrorist Dust2 for at least the last 5 or so years is to have 3 players on A, likely securing early long control as a trio, and 2 players towards the B bomb site. Now, as we can see on this round, Flamey manages to cross back to B, so Na'Vi can fall back into a more standard setup where they wouldn't be so vulnerable versus a B split or a hit coming straight out of B tunnels. Moving onwards a couple of rounds, here we're going to see an example of just how difficult it can be for the CTs to ensure that early long control. So on this round, Na'Vi are going to play 3 players towards A, as standard, and Simple, being on a good spawn, is planning to take on the long angle with his AWP. Big though are going for fast long control with 4 players and chaining loads of flashes over with a corner smoke. So Na'Vi here made the correct decision to just give long, seeing as they hadn't thrown any nades in advance to slow down the terrorists, since Simple was going to take on the long angle with his AWP before he got flashed back. In the end, Big, using their long control, work onto the A site, and even though Na'Vi retook short, it was always going to be a difficult position to win the round from, especially now in a 4 vs 5 as Edward died pushing T's spawn. The manner in which this round played out is common once the CTs have forfeited the control on long, and is a good example of why it can be very difficult to hold on to the A bomb site once long is in the hands of the terrorist side. Next up, we're going to watch the following round during this game, and remember that on the previous one, Na'Vi were forced to give up long control, which makes it much more difficult to play on the counter-terrorist side of Dust2. So with the previous round in mind, Na'Vi plays 4 players on A this round to better ensure long control, and Edward is playing solo on the B site. Unfortunately for Na'Vi, as we can see, Big are going to force out a fast B hit, and Edward manages to get 1 kill and fall out of window. Note that in this scenario, Edward stayed up in the window, which meant if Big did go for a fast B hit, then he could fall into playing retake instead of just getting traded out on the site, which definitely would have been a less favourable scenario. On this round then, Big got the bomb down in a 4 vs 5, which on Dust2's B site is terrace-sided, especially when they have the nades to keep re-smoking and re-mollying doors and window. Na'Vi though are going to commit for the retake very late here, and it's all a bit of a mess. And because of this, I really think, considering the clock, they would have just been better off saving and playing for some exit kills. Let's expand on this idea of mind games and talk about how this round played out. So here, Godby correctly gambled that Na'Vi were going to play 4 towards A early and decided to force out a fast B hit, guessing there would only be a single player on that B bomb site. Now, considering Na'Vi setup, Edward managing to get one kill and then fall into playing retake was basically as good as it was going to get. But since Dust2's B site is hard to retake and the T still having nades because they went for a fast hit, the situation was still terrorist favoured. So through watching this example, we have seen the risk that you run when playing 4 towards the A site, and I hope you guys are starting to get a better feel for what's going through the in-game leaders' minds when calling these rounds. Jumping into the next round, I want you just to sit back and admire the size of Zeus's testicles as Na'Vi decides to again put 4 players towards A early when this decision played a large part in the CIS team losing the previous round. The thought process going on here is that Zeus doesn't think Big will risk going for a fast B hit again because they'll think that Na'Vi will probably be playing 2 on B. And just to point out, if you try to force out a fast B hit into 2 CT players on the B site, then it's very unlikely you're going to trade well coming out of tunnels, and it's this high risk, high reward from both perspectives that makes these mind games really interesting. So here Electronic is boosted onto the spawn box and Simple is playing towards the back of the B side, and what Big is going to go for here is a fake onto A before falling back into a B split with low nades. Watching this one play out, Electronic goes down on the box, and here Simple gets 2 massive impact kills, knowing that he needed to commit to one of the directions before he gets pinched, and Simple here very much saves the round for Na'Vi. Something to bear in mind is that this match was played around 4 months ago, and during the meantime, teams have got much better in my opinion at securing long control without needing to bring a 4th player over. Now if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the specifics of the nades that teams will use to try and ensure CT long control, I'll direct you guys towards a video from Elmer Puddy on Liquid's method of long control, which I think is certainly one of the best methods out there, and I'll have that linked in the description if you'd like to check it out. Just to emphasise that this sort of thing doesn't happen all the time on Dust2, especially nowadays where it's less common for teams to play 4 towards A, but during the minors I saw loads of games where teams were risking 4 towards A early, which brought these mind games back into the matches. Also, even when these concepts are in play, there's still loads of other factors that go into which team is going to win the rounds, and it's not like just gambling into the correct call is going to be an auto win for you. So for example, I've seen plenty of rounds where CT teams sending 4 towards A for long control early are still unable to stop their opponent's fast long take. Now I chose to explain the concept using this game from the FACEIT Major because it really stuck in my head due to those few rounds in a row where Zeus and God B were locking horns trying to anticipate their opponent's moves. To round this one out, I'll paraphrase a quote from an interview myself and a co-writer did with Zipnix during the London Major, and although he'd probably revise it a little now, I think the overarching idea still stands. So Zipnix said, "Long control is key. We tried to take long control as CT versus North during the DreamHack Stockholm final, but it didn't really happen for us. We obviously looked at our demo and looked at how to counter that. For us, it's to send 4 guys long, specifically because people don't go B fast. People are going to look at our demos now, and when we did it, and it's a mind game at that point. Maybe you fake long when you're going 3 towards B, that's how the map's going to be played out for the next 1 to 2 months. It's going to be all about mind games and long control." Anyway, if you enjoyed that one, why don't you like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.